Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another character spotlight for Marvel's Contest of Champions. Today, we have a very exciting character, as this is a very difficult character to get a hold of. He is a trophy character for completing the Labyrinth of Legends 100%. And I have undertaken that endeavor, which is why I have this character. And he's a lot of fun. Ultron Classic is very unique in certain ways. He shares a lot of traits with regular Ultron, but there are a couple of features to the character that are unique to him, which I do appreciate. So we're going to talk a little bit about how Ultron Classic works, and as awesome as this character is, I do still feel that there are a couple of improvements that could be made to his kit, so we'll talk about those in turn as well. So starting off with the passive features of the character, he has an armor up buff that will activate every 15% of his health that he loses, and that will have a duration of 8 seconds, which is somewhat decent. I mean, there's not a whole lot of methods for him to gain armor up buffs, which is kind of disappointing, but that does play into his signature ability when and if you unlock that, so we can talk about that in turn. Ultron Classic also has a function of evade that activates every 7 seconds, and the way that this has worked and appears to continue to be working is that evade just kind of sits passively in the background until it is activated, and then it will reset that 7-second cooldown. So every 7 seconds you need to expect that he's going to dash back away from you, or go into the fight against Ultron Classic with someone who can counter his evasion, either with True Strike or the critical hit bypass or vigilance, something that allows you to circumvent evasion type maneuvers, and that is really the best method of counterplaying around that evade. And I actually think that that is one of the more favorable methods of evasion in the game, because it's not just randomly, there is some counterplay around it based off of how long it's been since the last time the character evaded. So a very interesting concept, to say the least. And then because he is metallic in structure and doesn't have any organic matter, he is immune to all bleed and poison effects, which is pretty good, all things considered, but it's very consistent with other members of the tech class as well. The only other method in which Ultron can gain armor up buffs is when he performs a block, and that activates on a 25% chance when blocking a strike, and those armor up buffs actually last a lot longer, but they're not nearly as strong. They will last for 15 seconds as opposed to 8, but they are significantly weaker than the armor up buffs gained through 15% health losses periodically over the course of the fight. But again, the armor up buffs do play a factor into his signature ability, so it is good that he has some additional method of obtaining those armor up buffs to access that feature. Ultron has a 19% chance on every strike that makes contact with his opponent to inflict a poison debuff that lasts for 6.5 seconds, and the poison damage is fairly negligible, but it does pair very nicely with his special attacks, because when Ultron unleashes a special attack, he will remove all poison effects from the opponent and convert it into a heal block that lasts for 1.5 seconds for every poison effect that was removed from the opponent. So that's actually fairly decent in terms of shutting down healing, and you're already having some benefits against healing, but with poison debuffs, you do reduce the efficiency of your opponent's healing factors and healing buffs. So being able to trade those counterbalances to the healing features for completely negating it with a heal block is a decent trade-off, especially since the poison debuffs don't deal an outrageous amount of damage to his opponents. And additionally, on special attacks, there is a 40% chance for the attack to stun, and that stun lasts 3 seconds if it activates. And it does activate on the final strike of the special attacks, which is good in the terms of this special too. And then for every 5 hits that. And finally, for every 5, and then the last item in the basic kit for Ultron Classic is for every 5 hits he carries out in his combo meter, he will gain a Fury buff, which increases his attack for 6 seconds. And that's something that the Age of Ultron is not able to do in terms of bolstering his own attack. Granted, he has a regen mechanic, which this version of Ultron does not, but I do prefer to see trade-offs in terms of how the characters work and function, especially when they're different characters in terms of source material and representation. Now, Ultron Classic's extreme ability I don't have unlocked on my version, but that's because I don't really see a need for using it, and I would have to use an Awakening Gem in order to access the extreme ability, which it's okay, but it's not super powerful, so you can be just fine by only having the character instead of seeking to have them awakened. But should you choose to use an Awakening Gem on this character, you do get a benefit of reduced offensive ability accuracy on your opponents by between 8 and 28% based off of how potent the extreme ability is for each armor up effect that is active on Ultron. So passively over the course of the fight, as you take strikes and your health lowers, you're going to be building up that ability accuracy suppression, and then if you are using blocks or parries, then you can additionally build that up as well. Now, some changes that I think would be beneficial to make to his character, they're not huge things, but I think that it would be fairly nice to have a couple of adjustments made. First off, I think that it would be good to be able to turn some of your armor buffs into permanent buffs, not passive ones, because we would still want them to contribute towards the ability accuracy features, but at the same time not be removable, because that would just kind of make things a little too powerful. Because if you've ever fought opponents that have ludicrous amounts of armor up debuffs, looking at Civil Warrior, especially with his overhaul that happened a little bit earlier this year, but they can just kind of turn the entire event into a slogfest. So making them permanent and still being able to be removed by Nullify or Armor Break buffs, I think really serves a benefit there. But I think that like landing a heavy attack should be able to convert a maximum of 2 of those armor up buffs into permanent buffs as opposed to passive ones, and then you can add its maximum efficiency, half the offensive ability accuracy of your opponents, without completely shutting it down and making it too overpowered. I think that that's a fairly decent place to start. I also think that it would be beneficial to have a doubled chance of activating a armor up buff if you perform a well-timed block. So not a guarantee that you will, but a better chance of it activating. And it doesn't even have to be a double chance all the way up to 50%. You could make it 35 or 40, and I still feel like that would be sufficient for the means of what Ultron does. I also would really like to see some sort of degeneration that can be applied if the opponent is immune to poison, just to kind of give Ultron some additional benefit for some of the trickier matchups, because he himself is immune to that poison, and with some research and the advanced AI mechanics that Ultron is known for, I feel like it would be within the realm of possibility for him to shut down, for him to find alternative methods of harming his opponents should they be immune to the poison that he is known for. And you could even have some sort of research mechanic where that gradually ramps up to a maximum power threshold over the course of the fight, and maybe have like a 30% chance for that damage to scale up 1 tier for each failed effect of the poison application that there is. So, just a couple of things to think about. I really do like the way that Ultron Classic is handled, but I'd like to see additional changes or tweaks made to his character just to make him a little more relevant and a bit more rewarding for having gone through the very grueling task of unlocking him from the end of the Labyrinth of Legends. But what do you think? Do you think that Ultron Classic is good just the way that he is? Do you think he should be available in lower rarities, a bit easier? Be sure to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's breakdown and buff discussion, be sure to leave a like on the video. It helps me know that you're enjoying what I'm doing here. The series hasn't been doing very well as a whole, so I might give it the axe in lieu of bringing different types of content to the channel in the near future. So if you are enjoying these, let me know, because it'll make sure that I continue to explore them. But thanks for your time, and I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day.